Okay, this particular mini lesson is related to uh, multiplication and division using positive and negative numbers. Um, let these yellow boxes represent numbers. So we have two numbers, and in this particular case, the rule number one. Well, let me step back. Um, for multiplication and division, the rules for that are much simpler than addition and subtraction of positive and negatives. In fact, there's only really two rules to keep track of. The first rule, I'll get right into it. Let's say these yellow boxes represent two numbers, and they have same sign, whether it's both positives or both negatives. And what I'm doing here, and I'm actually multiplying. Now, I'm going to use a dot quite often instead of multiplication using the old-fashioned, little cross. But you should realize it really means the same thing. As you progress and you mature mathematically, you'll be using dot more and more often because the little cross could be very confusing later on when we use variable x. Anyway, since these rules apply for multiplication, and I'll write them both ways, or division, and I'll write it like this. So you have one number multiplied by another number, and in this particular case, they are the same sign. The answer, if they're the same sign, regardless whether they're both positive or both negative, the answer will always be positive. So, to give an example, 3 times 4 equals 12. Now, we don't need to write positive 12, but you can if you want, especially in the beginning. It's positive 12 because they're both the same sign. Now, notice this. You have negative 3 times negative 4. Question is, are they the same sign? If they are the same sign, it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. The answer is going to be positive 12 again. Notice how in example 1, 3 times 4, they're both positive. In example 2, negative 3 times negative 4, they're both negative. But the answer is positive 12 in both cases. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is when the two numbers are opposite signs. In other words, if, okay, let me put a sign here. It's multiplication we're doing, or a division. The same rule applies to both operations. That makes it a lot easier than addition and subtraction rules. Anyway, so as an example, we have opposite signs. For instance, negative 3 times positive 4. The question is, are they opposite signs or same signs? The answer is opposite signs, therefore the answer will be negative. And what's 3 times 4 is 12? This is the final answer is negative 12. What about 3 times negative 4? In this case, we changed the position of the negative sign. It went from negative 3, and what's negative is the bigger number. But for multiplication, it doesn't matter which one is the bigger, which one is the smaller number. All we're looking at is if there are different signs, the answer is negative 12. So that makes it much easier. You don't have to concern yourself which team is the winning team and by how much. You're just looking at, are they the same sign or opposite signs? Alright, so let's do a couple more examples to kind of reinforce what we just went over. Now, in this case, 7 times 3. Now, I used the old-fashioned little, the cross, but I could have just as easily written 7 times 3. Okay, just be aware that means the same thing. Some of the students are still a little get hung up on that. Alright, 7 times 3. Well, 7 times 3 normally is 21. Question is it positive and negative? Since they're both positive numbers, the answer is 21. You don't have to write the positive sign in front of it. Question number 2, negative 7. Well, okay, let me step back. When you have a situation like this, what is the sign in between the two parentheses? Again, some of you are still not clear on this, but it's really a multiplication sign. As you progress mathematically, you should be aware that's even though we did not write it, but it's in there as a multiplication. Anyway, so the question is, what is negative 7 times negative 3? Are they both the same sign? If they are, it is positive. In this case, they're both negative signs. There's negative and there's negative. Therefore, the final answer would be positive, whatever 7 times 3 is, 21. Again, notice how the example number 1 and example number 2 have the same answers, even though the original question was different. Example number 3, 7 times negative 3. Well, the signs are different, therefore the answer is automatically negative. So negative 21. Now, example number 4 is negative 7 times 3. Again, the answer is 21, and what kind of 21? It's negative because the signs are different. Alright, example number 5. Negative 4 times, and I use the x in this particular case. Again, I can rewrite this like this, times negative 2. And I could also put parentheses. Sometimes it's a good idea to put parentheses to emphasize, around the negative sign. As you progress further and further, you should be comfortable seeing either of these examples and knowing that's a multiplication. Anyway, negative 4 times negative 2, both numbers are negative. In other words, the same sign, so the answer will be positive 8. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Now, we have been doing multiplication rules, but it's the same rules apply to division. So let's apply to division for 2 examples. 12 divided by negative 4. The signs are different, so the answer will be negative. And now you just do what's 12 divided by 4, and that is 3. So the final answer is negative 3. Example number 8, negative 16 divided by negative 8. Both numbers are of the same sign, and so the answer would be positive. Positive what? 16 divided by 8 is 2. So the final answer is just 2. Okay, very quickly I ran through this. So now hopefully you can pause. Well, hopefully you understand. But if you're still not very clear, pause this, go through these examples, and practice on your own. Thank you.